current status, we are run aground. So yeah, today did not go smoothly.
I told you guys don't go that way, man, but I hope so. You sure did.
It had all started out so well. We had an easy, stress-free sail from Marathon, Florida, up the Gulf Stream into Bimini. Enjoyed a beautiful sunset and a moonlit, clear evening as we pulled into anchor right around midnight. Unfortunately, the anchorage was very exposed and had terrible holding, so we both slept on deck all night, taking turns, taking watch to make sure that we weren't dragging. Good morning. We made it through the night, and what's really cool is you can already tell that the water here is going to be amazing, which is so exciting. I hope you can hear me. I'm trying really hard to be quiet because we'll still asleep. But I'm really excited to show Maddie this water because she's never seen anything like this before. And the moon's still up. You see by me. Beautiful night.
So waste.
I forgot the water could be this clear. It's like barely even any sun and you can see the bottom.
There was no sun and full moon when I was anchoring. You could see the bottom.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Are you excited for your inaugural Bahamas boat shower?
Yeah, I feel disgusting.
You look good.
You about to take your first Bahamas shower? Yeah? Okay.
We celebrated with a morning shower and congratulated ourselves for finally getting there. The water is amazing. It was then that the day started to take a turn for the worse as we pulled up anchor and started to make our way into the marina.
Within a few minutes of motoring off anchor this morning, I heard a grindy noise, so I immediately popped it in neutral, put it back in gear, heard the same thing, went back to neutral, and took a look around the engine room, and it's only occurring while in gear. So I looked at the transmission oil. It's a hydraulic gearbox. That's not what you want to see in your gearbox. And the transmission fluid that yesterday was a nice, bright, clear, clean red color is now a foamy pink color, which knowing very little about these things, I would guess that there's somehow seawater intrusion. So now the question is, we're a mile and a half south of our marina in Bimini. Do we try to nurse it in, going super slow, or do we try to get towed? Obviously there's no sea tow over on the side.
Does sea tow extend to the Caribbean?
There's no sea tow in Bimini, I don't think, but there's probably some local that can do it. If it is just like the hydraulic cooler, which I do have a replacement for on the boat, you know, I'd hate to damage the gearbox trying to get into port. I think it probably makes sense to try to get in touch with someone in Bimini, and unfortunately our phones don't have service where we are.
I think getting towed
But yeah, I think if we can get towed in and stuck on a face dock or something, that would be probably the most conservative bet. So I'm gonna start working on that. So I think I got a little problem here. I'm wondering if you can help me try to track down a towboat in North Bimini. We started radioing around trying to find a tow. We got a name of a local guy with a panga with a big outboard that could probably help tow us in. But when we talked to him, he was having some of his own troubles, and it just wasn't coming together for him to be able to do it. But luckily, our friends Jessica and Ryan overheard us on the radio and radioed me to say that they'd be willing to give towing us a shot because they've got a big rib with a 20 horse on it, and the conditions were benign enough at the moment to give the 2 or 3 mile tow from South Bimini into the harbor a shot.
Noting that we at the moment had a beautiful day, no wind, no sea state, but that was all about to change.
Yeah, there's a front due to come in overnight that day that was going to bring 25 to 35 knots with it out of the north. So we really didn't want to be stuck in an anchorage with poor holding, nor did we want to be trying to affect this tow any later in the day. We really wanted to get into the harbor and settled as soon as possible. What's going on?
Hey.
Fancy seeing you here.
I know. It definitely isn't a great spot to park.
No.
I figure with that wind that's coming tomorrow too, you really want to be not here.
Yeah, we gotta get out of here.
Neither Will nor Ryan had much experience towing with the dinghy, so we had to try a few different things before we finally got it sorted.
I think I have to point the direction I want and then apply thrust, because I can't turn once I'm pulling you. So I gotta back up, go that way, and then pull.
We initially tried towing, so he just took a line from the bow and tried towing us, but his dinghy was just skewing all over the place, and he really couldn't manage it effectively.
We might have to side tie. I have really just no control.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, I can pull you. We're making movement, but I have no control.
2 knots.
Yeah, let's try a side tie. See how that works.
Okay. So then we tried bringing him around to our starboard quarter and hip towing us, and that worked a lot better. He was able to get us up to about, I think, close to 3 knots, maybe even slightly over 3 knots. And we could control the boat perfectly with our own rudder, so that actually worked out really well.
Getting in should have been very straightforward.
Yeah, we had a slip reserved at the Blue Water Marina about halfway up the channel in North Bimini, and we talked to the dockmaster about what our approach was going to look like. It was going to be, at that time, an up-current approach, which is what you want because you can go as slow as you need to and you have maximum controllability, and then pulling straight into an open slip. However, that all changed when a fuel tanker, probably a 250 foot fuel tanker, arrived and parked their ship just outside of the Blue Water Marina and ran their fuel hose across the approach over to shore, thereby blocking the usual approach into the marina. So then we were faced with a dilemma. We either have to wait until the fuel tanker leaves, but nobody could tell us how long that would be. We could try to get a different marina, which in retrospect would have been the right goal immediately when we found that out. Or we could go sit at anchor, but there's really not any great anchorages in Bimini, so we really did want to get into a slip so we could start dealing with this problem. We didn't like the idea of being anchored out in a blow with no workable engine. So the last option was to try to go around the backside of the fuel tanker and then come down current and turn before running into the fuel line and turning back up into the slip.
Alright, I just talked to the dockmaster. He said go past the tanker and then just cut hard in towards the marina, in between the 2 docks we're at, and then get a bunch of people out to help you out.
That's awesome. All right, we'll give it a shot.
Alright, good luck.
Thanks very much.
So the whole time that we're debating what should we do, everyone on the radio is calling Will and trying to give their own advice.
Gentleman who helped you in the little boat, you draw 6 feet, right?
Yes, sir.
I was telling you, once you see us cut, we're gonna stay on line. You see us cut right across the slope.
Big game marina, big game marina. This is Faming Vessel brought in over.
So we can miss that little bar right there. See what I'm saying?
Sorry, I missed that last bit. What are we supposed to do?
I was telling you, when you come to the stern, as soon as you pass the stern, that means you're gonna be taking a left. You're going south a little bit. The line is more south, our gas line. So I just want you to look at the water. You see the deep part of the water.
Yeah, I was getting a lot of different advice. The dockmaster was certain that we could, if we followed his directions to the T, that we could go behind the fuel tanker and not run aground on the big shallow bank, and still get into the slip without hitting the fuel line. He was very certain of this. Other people on the radio said absolutely not. You will run aground if you try this. Ignore him. There's a cacophony of voices, and meanwhile we're like doing donuts in the channel trying to figure out what we're going to do. And yeah, again, I should have gone with option B of just go to a different marina, but I let my optimism get the better of me and made an attempt. The dockmaster told us to hold really tight along the shoreside edge of the tanker before turning towards the marina. I think I'm pretty close, but I don't feel comfortable going all the way down the length of the ship down to the fuel line, because at that point we're running down current. If anything happens, we lose control, we're going to go ripping through a fuel line and create God knows what kind of natural disaster, kill who knows how much wildlife, owe millions and millions of dollars, shut a town down for a week or whatever. It just would have been an enormous disaster. So I lost the balls to do it, and I cut over apparently a little too soon.
Paradox, Asgard.
Too many cooks. Go ahead.
Hey, he said you're off the bottom now, but need help with another dinghy or anything?
We are not off
No,
the
we are
bottom.
definitely on the bottom.
All right, we'll stand by if you need anything.
All right, thanks for that.
Dinghy are correct, the guys are on the bottom?
That is correct.
Well, because they're probably trying to anchor.
Man. Wow. I told you guys don't go that way, man, but told you so.
You sure did. And I mean, again, we were under a dinghy tow, so we're not going that fast, but we had the current behind us, so it just put us up right on top of this sandbank. And the moment we started going up it, I knew, like, oh yeah, that's the game. Well, we're not going anywhere, particularly without our own engine to try to back off or anything.
We also have a winged keel.
Yeah, we've got it's a long fin with a big wing on the bottom, and that it has the potential to sort of wedge in the ground. I don't know how much of a factor that was in this case, but what you can't really do when you've got a wing is heel the boat over. You'd be imparting lots of loads in ways that the hull and keel structure is not designed for. So as soon as we were on that bank, I knew that it was just going to be a matter of waiting for high tide. We threw out a kedge. We just put an anchor further out so that as the tide was coming up, we floated free before we were ready. We wouldn't get pushed further north onto that shoal.
Thank you.
That's that for now.
Yeah.
See ya
Thanks, man.
sometime.
Yeah, what channel you gonna hang out on?
I'll go back to 16.
Okay, we'll hang out at 16 too.
Cool.
All right.
We'll be
Thanks.
around. We're not
Thanks,
doing much.
Ryan. Really
All right.
appreciate it.
See you in a bit.
So we waited and we waited and we waited. And then finally, right as it was getting dark, the boat finally started to lift up and we thought we had a window.
Should mention, at this point, by the time we did this, they had retracted their fuel line an hour or so prior, so we did have a clear shot to go south. And the other part of this was, now that we had the flood tide coming in, our approach into Blue Water Marina, where our original slip was, that was going to be a down current approach. So probably a 2 knot, 2.5 knot current. and additional boats had come in along the T-head. So it was going to be a really sketchy, big S-turn maneuver while going downstream to get into that slip. I wasn't going to do that, because not only were we going to crunch our own boat, we were likely to crunch a bunch of other boats. So that seemed like a crappy idea. I gave up on Blue Water Marina by no fault of their own, and called over to Brown's Marina at the south end of the harbor, and they had a slip free where I would have a direct up current approach, barely any turning, just straight into a slip. So that's the plan that we had hatched and had organized before we started trying to break the boat loose. So we rounded up our friends, Ryan and Jessica, their dinghy, our new friends, Ethan and Amber on Asgard. We got their dinghy in the mix and started trying to maneuver, pushing and pulling, and
it was doing nothing.
Yeah, we weren't going
nothing.
anywhere. We could move it a few inches in any direction, but it just wasn't. And I'm cranking on the bow thruster, and we weren't getting off. So the guys that had been sitting on the fuel tanker all day, kind of having a bit of a laugh at our predicament. I mean, they're super nice guys, but they had wanted to give this a shot with their workboat from the moment we hit the bottom. So they were chomping at the bit to get in on this. So they hopped in their whaler or whatever it was with I think a 40 horse on it, and took a bow line or maybe a stern line from us and just started cranking.
The big boat, he's going to come down and pull.
So yeah, just pause for a moment.
Pause. Okay, go. Go.
Dinghy's pushing on the starboard side. We eventually started feeling some movement. We got the bow thruster cranking and finally shifted it off into slightly deeper water. And at that point, we had Ryan back on the hip, providing some forward thrust and simultaneously trying to bring up our kedge as quickly as possible as we were building momentum, trying to avoid the ship that was right next to us.
Which got eerily close.
Don't put them into that boat.
Yeah. I'm in neutral.
All right, Ethan, you get around the other side. We're gonna go straight ahead. Yeah, we're working on that.
Push your stern too much by pulling it. And it went off without a hitch.
Yeah, once the boat got free and we got the anchor up, we were just heading up current at a couple of knots with Ryan on our hip and Asgard, Ethan and Amber standing by with their dinghy to do any pushing if need be.
If you could give a hand, we would really appreciate it. Yeah, right there.
We were able to put it gently into the slip at Brown's. Soon-to-be friend Don on Corvalant hopped out and grabbed our lines, and then we were able to hop off and
Have a beer
with all these guys, which was a huge relief after a very long, embarrassing, slightly trying day.
Thank you so much, guys.
I lost all my my electronics coming in, so I had a shitty entrance myself.
In hindsight, this is definitely a phenomenon of cascading failures and how one failure tends to exacerbate the potential for downstream failures, and coupled with a little bit too much optimism about thinking that we could make the long shot work. So the gearbox was the first failure, and then the second failure was the tanker. I mean, that was out of our control, nothing we could do about that. But then the next failure was when we were getting all this conflicting information, didn't didn't take the proper time to just step back from the situation, analyze it for what it was with the variables at the time, and regroup with a new plan, we decided to forge ahead with questionable information and just a lot going on, which led to us taking a really high-risk maneuver that actually in a lot of ways ended really well, because if all that happened is we ran aground, no big deal. If we had hit that line, that would have just been such a tremendous disaster. So I guess my advice to my future self would just be to step back from the situation a little bit and, as the paramedics say, smoke them if I got them, and think about it a little bit.
I guess the last thing that I want to say is that experience is a just perfect example of how people on boats and on the water come together to help those who need it. I mean, we had so many people offering help and assistance. Obviously, we got help from our friends in the cruising community, but the fact that we were only able to get off because the guys on the oil tanker hopped in their boat to help too, it's just incredible. The willingness that people have to help those out on the water who need it. So I want to say thank you to Ryan and Jessica, to Ethan and Amber, to the Ocean Breeze boat for not making fun of us too much and then helping.
Ocean Breeze was the tanker.
Ocean Breeze was the tanker. And to the marinas for Blue Water held a slip for us all day, even though we ended up not taking it, which was so generous of them. And then Browns let us come in, and yeah, it ended up being a great time in Bimini, even though it was off to a slightly shaky start. In the next episode, we explore Bimini with our friends, fix the issue with our gearbox, and continue our exploration of the Bahamas.